Hello, everyone. This second day of our Congress is dedicated to an effort to understand human nature environment interaction. Looking at the pre-perinatal experience from the perspective of modern sciences and theories, the complex theory, can cast a light on the ways that cosmos has come into being in general, and then how human life appeared and how it evolved, and we can see that the same universal laws that govern cosmos are to be found at work behind our human life dynamics. As the ancient Greeks used to say, to understand the concept, first visit the word, the concept itself. So, how complex is complexity? And if we look at the Latin language, the word complexus, from which the word complex derives, meant woven together, encompassing, made up of various interconnected parts. Of course, in psychology, the term complex refers to a group of related, often repressed memories, thoughts, or impulses that compel characteristic or habitual patterns of feelings, thought, and behavior. However, complex is also not simple, or, in other words, difficult to understand or deal with. It's been quite a long time now that in science as well as in health, whatever we thought once of something difficult to grasp, we developed the tendency to break it down in smaller parts to make sense out of it. That initiated some centuries now the strategy of reducing, cutting down in our effort to understand, and what once was a strategy to understand something became a trap that limited our scope. A number of sciences, among which biology, chemistry, computer simulation, economics, mathematics, physics, communications, have developed and proven theories that cast more light to the ways nature functions when creating worlds, even multiverses, not just one universe. Today, the theory of complexity has developed the key principles that can explain complex adaptive systems, CAS, and complex evolving systems in a way that is more appropriate. Due to the synergetic work of a number of scientists, Kaufman, Holland, Allen, Goodwin, Prigogine, Maturana, Varela, Mingers, Niklas, so many, complexity has ceased to be complicated. And as the understanding is much better now, it will be very soon when complexity will become simplicity. But why should we study complexity? Well, studying in complexity helps us understand the nature of our world as well as the nature of our organizations, the ones we humans create and live in. And although a lot of work needs to be done to test how well and to what extent complexity principles can be applied to prenatal human evolving or adapting systems. This this one is an initial effort to explore the metaphors, the analogies, the models within complex systems within prenatal psychology. What is more, it is our intention to introduce a conceptual framework, a way of thinking, and a way of seeing the world of human experience from preconception to afterbirth and beyond, expanding our preconceived linear ways of looking at what is and what becomes to new non-linear dynamic systems that can better explain how we might co-evolve from generation to generation. What are the key principles? The 10 most important principles that we can see in all natural complex systems, human systems included, present these common characteristics or behaviors: connectivity and interdependence, coevolution, dissipative structures, exploration of the space of possibilities and acceptation, feedback, spontaneous self-organization, emergence, path dependence, participation, chaos, coherence, and order. So let's see each one of them in turn. Within any system, all elements are interconnected. They interact with each other and with the environment in which they exist. Yuri Bronfenbrenner, when formulating his human ecology theory, has stated that human development is influenced by the different types of environmental systems: microsystem, mesosystem, exosystem, macrosystem, and chronosystem. Prenatal pioneers, including Peter Fedor Freiberg, mother-child dialogue, Grigory Breckman, the wave theory, the Turners, the whole self pre-birth analysis matrix, Lake with mother-fetus distress syndrome, Groff with the matrices, etc., have spoken about the importance of the uterine environment and the interplay between the maternal environment and the baby conceived, in gestation, being born, as well as the imprints that may stay with this baby later on as the baby grows into childhood and adulthood. The development of the unborn child is the result or outcome of an intricate intertwining of myriads of elements or information that may affect him. However, this does not have equal or uniform impact on all and on each of the human beings in the field, as this varies with the state of each related individual and system at a given time. The history and the constitution of the maternal system in its expanded meaning, as well as the organization and the structure of it, will shape the unborn then born child in a unique way that is connected with the history, constitution, organization, and structure of the unborn or born child herself or himself. A lot depends on how open or how closed the two systems are, and the interplay may lead to outcomes that might not be experienced as beneficial by all involved parts. As all of us involved in bonding analysis or empowering prenatal bonding have noticed, the way a mother or family perceives the unborn or born child and the consequent ideas, thoughts, attitudes, emotions, and behaviors that stem from this way are not necessarily empowering for the unborn, later born child. As the baby may try to improve the opportunity in life, this may mean a worsening condition for others, parents, for example, society, employers, who cannot see the mutual benefits for both organisms in symbiosis. The interconnectivity is connected with a high degree of interdependence. Actually, the greater the interdependence, the wider the ripples of disturbance may be, as the improvement in one part may impose associated costs or losses on another part within the same system or related systems. And the failure to recognize the win-win aspects may trigger unnecessary friction. Gregory Breckman has spoken about the multidimensional communication between the maternal environment and the unborn born child. Complex systems are indeed multidimensional, and all dimensions interact with each other, altering and changing to the best or the worst. Narrowing down research to one or some dimensions will prevent us from fully understanding the ways human beings become in the process. What is more, as complex evolving systems can adapt and evolve, creating new order and coherence, it is important to see how the agendas of each part in the mother-baby system can work effectively as a team for the optimum outcome, or change the rules of interaction and act on limited understanding of what the system aims to achieve as a whole, or adapt to self-repair and or self-maintain. Different degrees of connectivity and of interdependence within the family systems, as well as diversity, density, intensity, and quality of interactions between maternal environments and the unborn, born, later grown up people has been seen in prenatal psychology. Kaufman has stated that coevolution takes place within an ecosystem and cannot happen in isolation. According to Wright, each genotype has a fitness, and the distribution values over the space of genotypes constitute a fitness landscape. Each organism can alter the fitness landscape of self and the fitness landscape of the other as it influences and is influenced. The evolution of the unborn born baby is dependent on the level of evolution of the maternal environment. It is not just how mother feels. When I say mother, I mean maternal environment, the whole society. It is also how evolved mother is, how evolved the maternal environment is. The symbiotic phase calls all of us to think of coevolution opportunities, not only for the unborn or born child, but also for the maternal environment. Coevolution, that is the evolution of interactions, places a strong emphasis on the quality of relationship between the co-evolving parts. Furthermore, we need to see this co-evolution process as an open system that does not follow a linear direction, but is in constant interplay with all other systems at play. We are constantly influencing coevolution and self-evolution. This viewing of things takes us to the new position of seeing the unborn born child not as a passive receiver of influences, but also as a fully participating, active agent of coevolution and self-evolution with all the responsibilities and rights connected to it. No individual, no part, no unborn, newborn, no baby is powerless. No mother is powerless. No father is powerless, as its part reverberates through a very supple web of interrelationships and calls for greater sensitivity and awareness of responsible action. It is also important to look at the element of time in coevolution, as two or more organisms can co-evolve if they change in the same upward direction at the same time. Can short-term adaptation in one part lead to long-term coevolution? Can the rate of coevolution be measured? As prenatal experience is a preparation and adaptation for functioning properly after birth, could the transfer of information, knowledge, and above all wisdom from the maternal environment to the new human being allow this human being to better operate and function in life, and allow the family bonds to stay strong and not fall apart? How can we all, in the wider context of maternal environment, create that culture which will help the human being, the newcomer, to not only survive but also thrive? And how can all of us in the same context, by doing so, evolve as well? As professionals in the field, it is part of our vision to see how our constituent aspects can evolve together in an interconnected, interdependent way within an ecosystem, and allow the ones that come to our clinics or practices learn how to harmoniously co-create their environment in ways that are to the mutual benefit of all stakeholders, removing any barriers that interrupt creative interactions and teaching, when needed, how to make space for the new person to make their contribution and develop the appreciation of what each human being can bring to the system, and the willingness to accept what is offered to them, to each one of them. I mentioned dissipative structures. What are they? Dissipative structures are ways in which open systems exchange energy, matter, or information with their environment. And when pushed far from the equilibrium point, they can create new structures and order. As Nicholas and Prigogine in 1989 said, by applying an external constraint, we do not permit the system to remain at equilibrium. When we continue to apply such a constraint, there will be a critical point when the equilibrium will disappear and a new structure, order, will appear. This new structure is the result of a self-organizing process of the system in its effort to continue existing even after having pushed far beyond its own equilibrium state, losing its own old structure order, and at the same time assuming a new one better equipped for the new environment, hopefully of a higher level. The new form is usually of unpredictable and uncontrollable nature. It is behind all forms of creation in our universe, and it is the factor that makes each one of us stay aghast at the variety of forms energy can take. At the same time, there is not one and only one possibility for the new form to emerge, as there are several solutions that may lie ahead for the same parameter values. But which one is to be taken? Which solution will be selected and which path will be followed? This is what gives the specific system a historical dimension, kind of memory of what had happened at that specific moment, which affected further evolution, as Prigogine has already said. The past symmetry was lost, but the emergent behavior presents coherence, the result of micro-level interactions of the participating parts, even against entropy, as shown again by Prigogine. In prenatal psychology, one of the most significant fears that surfaces is the fear of death, the fear of the unknown, which is also the fear of life, as Otto Rank spoke, is also a key finding. Is the key to understand this specific dissipating structure that lead to the emergence of new forms? And if yes, then our teachings and our support systems may take new avenues of development as we dare to lose identity and traditional known forms and schemata to enter the world of all new forms and all new identities, open a hand, or just the one that is responsive to the new order parameter values. Spotting the bifurcation points, that is, the forks in the road, can be most significant act. It is at that point when all possibilities are present simultaneously, and what remains to create the new is the decision through the dynamics of fluctuations as the system scans the new territory and makes its efforts to stabilize again, becoming a historical object depending on the decision made. As the Turners have shown in their whole self pre-birth analysis matrix, the PAM, there are 22 bifurcation points in our primal experience from preconception to postnatal. At each of them, the unborn human organism is educated and makes decisions depending on the information this human being gets from the environment in mother's consciousness, and these decisions shape their future. Our pre-birth environment experiences become our history and our future. And what makes the difference between living entities in the current state, our individual present experience, and that of the maternal environment is what is the light that is integrated in each participant's consciousness. Our present is the keeper of all destinies. Before any decision is made final, the alternatives are sources of innovation, diversification, endowments towards the direction of exploring the space of new possibilities in terms of behavioral patterns and relationship modes. Dissipating structures, the creative force at work, and the act of autocatalysis can be seen not as catastrophe of form, which is as the symmetry is broken, but at the same time as creators of new, multiple solutions open in front of us. It is then the hysteresis based on the past history of each one of us which will lead to new self-organized forms of higher wisdom, thus called evolution. When analyzing our primal experience and primal health system, this interaction of nervous, endocrine, and immune system as a whole, we can trace the critical points of our pre-birth history, and it is here where there is a vast possibility for all health advancement, freeing not only our proteins on a biological level from synthesizing this or that form of life, but our destinies as societies and nations, as humanity from self-producing patterns of lower level health and civilization. Professionals in the field of prenatal psychology and psychiatry are invited to act as catalysts and also as enabling, empowering infrastructures, offering their support at such critical points in our process. It is also important to bear in mind that form emerges. It is not imposed, and there are no end states. This remembrance can help us make decisions away from eugenic practices. It is good to maintain our intentions as life developers, or better say, as life evolutionaries who can shape outcomes in the generations to come. But there will always be unexpected outcomes too, which may surprise us and which are entitled to the rights of being and becoming as part of the ways energy chooses to manifest. Complexity makes it clear that each and every living entity needs to be always scanning the environment so that it can spot the optimum possibilities present in the environment, which can guarantee either survival or thriving experience. This scanning is a never-ending process, as all systems are characterized by an unsteady element which makes them changeable. We need to have a level of intellect, of intelligence, to spot the changes and strategies which will allow us to make micro-flexible adaptations to it, so that we can safeguard what is optimum for us at every given moment. It is not an act we are called to do once and then rest, but a process that calls for active participation in continuously rapid changing ecosystems. Flexible adaptation calls for empowering new ways of looking at things and seeing things. Gould and Kaufman used the term exaptation to describe the act of seeing a novel function for a part of an existing entity. It is the quality much appreciated today in research, applied science, innovation, art, to mention just a few. Asking our clients, our children, our colleagues, our partners, ourselves, what new good use of the existing resources can you spot in the here and now, and how can you make it work so that it can open up new survival and or thriving possibilities, is a habit that we could develop towards this direction. Exactly as we did when we started creating our placenta. That exploration of the adjacent possibility can take us to the identification of the building blocks at our disposal, so that we can better create what we can be and what we can become. The endogenous mechanisms that can be triggered can be critical as to the success or failure of the system to find new ways of making a living and or thriving. And as many in prenatal psychology have clearly shown, the higher the primal stress, the lower the functionality of our primal health system. Removing what may block such successful exploration of possibilities in the vicinity, and empowering the human being to wisely scan, spot, and bring to form resources present in the now and here, can be one of the major priority learning tasks of educators in all fields, parents, and teachers included, apart from psychotherapies. Then its system depends on both negative and positive feedback gained from the environment. Any negative feedback that reaches the system contributes to the stability of the system and becomes the conservative force, the stabilizer of its existence. And any positive feedback creates an amplification condition and renders the system sensitive to dissipating structures and a new coherent order. There is a sort of non-stop dance between change and stability in complex systems. When things do not work, new ways are to be found. Once the ways serve the system well, there is a tendency to maintain the equilibrium gained. In prenatal psychology, it is important to look at human, maternal, unborn, born baby interactions that influence potential action and behavior from either side, and work with the feedback exchanged between or among the participating parts, as well as the ways this feedback is interpreted by them as part of the degree of connectivity, time and space, as well as the light encapsulated in the system, and how this is connected with coevolution of all involved. in psychic chemical, physic chemical systems, we can observe bistability, the phenomenon that Prigogine has named as such, when under the same boundary conditions, it is possible that several stable states can exist. The specific path that the system will follow is based on the past history. Our past becomes our future, and it is highly unpredictable, as the past, not only of human beings, can be traced in the long held information carried by the ovum from time immemorial, but also of our universe, the creation of which and the forces at play at the time are lost and still not uncovered. This interplay between negative and positive feedback, stability and change, seems to be similar to the game as children we used to play when we were divided in two teams and pulled a rope. We, as part of the team, in our direction, trying to get the other team to lose hold of the rope and so to win. As path dependence can also be used to enable further developments, it would be very wise to bear in mind a salutogenic focus of thinking and acting. Health breeds health. Civilization breeds civilization. Evolution breeds evolution, and wisdom breeds wisdom. Let us focus on this direction, being brave enough to dissipate forms that are not conclusive to those, so that every day we can create new paradigms in this direction. Observing the forces at play when analyzing primal experience can discover the energy and the ways it synthesizes to emerge and feed missing information, so that the human being can have more opportunities to self-organize who this human being is towards evolutionary paths and not maladaptive ones. Fundamental structural development in the form of novelty is very different from superficial change in this direction. We, working in the field of prenatal psychology, need to provide for both breadth and depth. Breadth in the meaning of allowing sufficient diversity for spontaneous self-organization to happen, making space for heterogeneous groups and relevant information to exist or research or act as catalysts, and depth in the meaning of peeling off the layers, getting to the issues underneath, lost in time and space immemorial. Each one of us is an active participant in co-creating what happens through our continuous interactions. We create the present and the past as a result outcome of what or where we choose to look at or look for. Chaos theory examines forms of complexity in which order coexists with disorder at the edge of chaos. Chaos, another Greek word, describes the infinity of space of formless matter supposed to have preceded the existence of the ordered universe, the void at the beginning of creation, impregnated with all life forms. Does this mean that everything that is already exists in us? We, in prenatal psychotherapy, we should also look at family fractals and discover what is it that repeats as a template within the families. by applying chaos theory to human primal experience. And what comes out of it is a tool that invites us to think differently, search for a simpler way, work on a multidimensional level, enabling frameworks that facilitate this, refocus our attention, appreciate wholeness, synchronize dissimilar individuals, bring science to real world, find our links in the outside world, spot the humps, and use the ones to create values away from those that spread viruses within families and societies, spot the breakdowns in the system that cause disease and enhance health, know that humans, as everything else in life, can be unpredictable and move beyond formulas, protocols, equations, presenting paradox developments or failures, which is the other driving force to more creativity. Thank you.